I stood in the polished hallway of Ellison Manufacturing's Chicago headquarters, the glass walls of the executive conference room reflecting my reflection back at me like an unwelcome ghost. The quarterly shareholder meeting was about to begin, and my sister Brooke was inside, meticulously arranging binders at each leather chair with that practiced smile she had perfected since childhood. She could charm anyone into believing her version of reality. At 35, she had turned that talent into her role as Director of Strategic Initiatives for the company our grandfather built from a small machine shop in the late 80s. Through the glass, I watched our father Richard reviewing notes at the head of the table, his posture rigid with the authority he had worn for decades. Mother Margaret fussed over a floral arrangement that seemed out of place amid the financial reports and laptops. The company had survived recessions, supply chain crises, and near bankruptcies, always bouncing back just enough to maintain the Ellison name in Midwest manufacturing circles. But the mahogany paneling and crystal water pitchers hid cracks that had been widening for years. Brooke noticed me lingering and cracked the door open just enough to speak through the narrow gap. "Riley," she said, her tone light but edged. "The meeting starts soon. This is strictly for active family shareholders." The words landed like a familiar slap, though I had anticipated them. I held up my printed agenda. "I'm aware. I have all the materials." She glanced back at Mother, who was already watching us with narrowed eyes. Brooke's diplomacy slipped. "It's not really appropriate for outsiders to the daily operations." Mother stepped closer, her heels echoing sharply on the marble. "Brooke's being polite, Riley. But honestly, you tried your hand at starting something and it didn't stick. Not everyone is built for the pressures of real business. This meeting is for those actually driving Ellison forward." The label failed entrepreneur had stuck since I quietly closed my small tech consulting firm 3 years earlier. They never asked why, never dug deeper. To them, it confirmed what they had always suspected. I was the dreamer, the one who didn't inherit the family grit. What they didn't know was that closing the firm freed me to focus on something far larger, something that had quietly become the lifeline keeping Ellison afloat. "I understand," I said softly, the sting familiar but no longer surprising. "I'll leave you to it." Brooke's expression flickered with momentary hesitation before she recovered. "Maybe coffee later? Catch up properly." I nodded without commitment as she closed the door with a soft, final click. I walked to the elevator, descended to the underground parking garage, and sat in my car, the engine off, phone heavy in my hand. The irony pressed down on me. While they prepared their performance of control, I pulled up the latest portfolio report from Ellison Ventures Partners, the investment firm they had no idea belonged entirely to me. The summary listed the infusions: initial convertible debt in early 2020 when pandemic shutdowns threatened everything, followed by equipment financing, supply chain bailouts, R&D pushes, bridge loans, facility upgrades, emergency capital. Total committed, $175 million. My current position, 48% equity through layered LLC structures and intermediary firms. The notes were clear: family unaware of source. Operations viability dependent on continued support. I had become the silent majority force behind the company they claimed as their legacy. Every wire transfer, every anonymous approval through lawyers, had come from Riley Ellison, the sister they dismissed as the family footnote. My phone buzzed. It was my attorney, Sarah Klein. "Saw the calendar invite," she said without greeting. "Are you at headquarters?" "Just excluded again," I replied. Sarah's dry laugh cut through. "The timing is almost poetic." What's next? The question had haunted me with every check I wrote. Every family dinner where father complained about demanding investors while I sat silently funding the very meal. "I'm going to observe," I told her. "Let them make their decisions without knowing I'm watching." Then I'll decide how much longer they deserve the illusion. I hung up and connected remotely to the conference room's video feed using credentials from an old internship that had never been revoked, a symptom of their lax oversight. I muted myself and watched as Father called the meeting to order at exactly 10 o'clock. 12 people filled the table: my parents, Brooke and her husband Ethan, Uncle Marcus and Aunt Lydia, 2 cousins, and 4 outside directors who mostly nodded along. Father opened with familiar gravitas. We've weathered storms, but thanks to strong family leadership, Ellison Manufacturing stands poised for growth. I nearly laughed at the phrasing. Strong leadership meant surviving only because of my capital keeping the lights on through 3 separate near-insolvencies. Brooke launched into her presentation. Our initiatives have delivered major contracts, facility upgrades, and R&D breakthroughs. Every achievement she listed traced back to my funding, the upgrades from my $25 million, the contracts enabled by equipment I financed. She moved to the opportunity, acquiring a competitor, Caldwell Components, for market dominance in aerospace parts. The asking price hovered around $80 million, negotiable perhaps to $72. Funding would come from existing investment partners who had shown willingness for more capital. One director asked about family contribution. Father assured them it would be minimal, perhaps $5 million collectively, with the rest covered by partners. I sat straighter. No one had reached out to my firm about any acquisition. A quick message to my team confirmed it. 0 contact. 0 proposals. They were planning to commit tens of millions of my money without asking, assuming the anonymous savior would simply deliver. The conversation shifted darker. Mother raised equity distribution. As we expand, ownership should reflect real contributions. Brooke advanced a slide proposing restructuring. Active managers deserved larger stakes. Those less involved should consider selling shares back at fair value. They named me specifically. My legacy shares from grandfather, actually 9%, not the 5 they misremembered, should be bought out to simplify things. Riley's doing okay with her side projects, Mother said dismissively. She doesn't need the burden. Father agreed to have lawyers draft an offer around 1.2 times book value. I felt cold fury rise. Not from the personal slight. I had long outgrown needing their approval, but from the audacity. They planned to strip grandfather's gift while spending my capital freely. The meeting ended with assignments. Brooke on acquisition due diligence. Ethan on negotiating with the mystery investor. Lawyers on my buyout offer. As they filed out, I heard Brooke tell Mother, "Riley will be upset about the buyout." Mother replied, "She'll get over it. Some people build. Some support. Riley knows her place." Sitting in the dim parking garage, my hands trembled not from pain but from the clarity of rage. 3 years of silent support, of watching them claim credit for my rescues, had crystallized into this moment. They wanted to negotiate with Ellison Ventures partners? I would give them the meeting they asked for. I drove to my modest office suite in a building I owned through one of my property entities. My small team, 3 analysts, 2 lawyers, CFO Marcus Lee, waited. I briefed them on the overheard plans. Marcus's face hardened. They intend to spend your $70 million without consent and dilute your legacy shares for pennies. That's not just arrogant, it's legally precarious. Sarah joined via video. You hold 48% through the fund plus your 9% legacy. 57% total majority. They remain clueless. The play formed clearly. They expected a face-to-face with the principal investor. I would deliver exactly that. The invitation went out 3 days later through the usual law firm channels. Formal. Professional. Confirming a meeting on November 15th at 2 p.m. All shareholders of record requested to attend. Father called that afternoon. His voice strained with false warmth. "Riley, we're hosting a critical investor session Tuesday. Families should present united. Can you join?" I kept my tone even. What's it about? Our main backer wants to meet in person. Wear something professional. First impressions matter. The week dragged with preparation. Sarah drafted disclosures. Marcus prepared financials. I rehearsed calm detachment. Tuesday morning, I chose a tailored charcoal suit. Arriving early to the conference room, the seating arrangement was telling. 2 chairs at the far end of the table, positioned subserviently opposite father. I took one deliberately. Mother objected immediately. Those are reserved for the investors. Riley. I opened my leather portfolio embossed with Ellison Ventures Partners in gold lettering. I know. The door opened. Sarah entered first, followed by Marcus Lee and 2 analysts, all in formal attire carrying matching portfolios. Sarah spoke crisply. Good afternoon. Thank you for accommodating. I'm Sarah Klein, General Counsel for Ellison Ventures Partners. This is Marcus Lee, CFO, and our analysis team. Confusion rippled through the room. Father half rose. Where is the principal? I stood, extending my hand across the table. Right here. Riley Ellison, founder and managing partner of Ellison Ventures Partners. The silence was absolute. Brooke recovered first. This isn't the time for jokes. Riley, this is serious. I'm entirely serious, I replied calmly. Sarah slid the investment history document to father. Initial $45 million. Followed by 7 additional rounds totaling $130 million more. Grand total $175 million. Father's hands shook as he read, color draining from his face. Mother whispered, That's impossible. You don't have that kind of money. Your business failed. I completed her thought. That's what you've called me for years. In truth, I closed the consulting firm because I had outgrown it while managing a $340 million portfolio across 23 companies. Ellison Manufacturing represents over half my deployed capital. Marcus Lee distributed certified statements. Ethan, with his private equity background, grasped the implications fastest. You control 48% through the fund plus your legacy shares, 9%. Combined 57% majority. I confirmed I had monitored every meeting remotely for 3 years. Monitoring my investment, I corrected when Brooke accused spying. Sarah highlighted the unauthorized plans to commit my additional $70 million without proposal or approval, plus forensic findings, nearly $500,000 in questionable compensation increases, personal expenses on corporate accounts, non-competitive contracts to connected vendors. The family exchanged panicked glances as the power balance shattered. I let the weight settle before speaking. You wanted negotiation with Ellison Ventures. This is it. The room hung suspended in shock. I stood and moved to the window overlooking the parking garage where I had sat listening to their dismissal just days earlier. When I turned back, my voice remained steady but carried finality. For 3 years, I kept this company alive while you erased my existence. I funded every survival measure you took credit for. You excluded me, mocked my little projects, and plotted to sell my grandfather's shares cheaply, all while treating my capital as an entitlement. Sarah distributed the proposed restructuring document. Here are your options, I announced. Option 1. Accept governance reform. I assume formal majority control. We install independent board members with real authority. Family compensation resets to market competitive levels, substantially lower than current self-awarded packages. Questionable expenses cease. The Caldwell acquisition undergoes proper due diligence. Any proceeding requires my explicit approval. You retain your 43% collective equity and can continue roles under oversight if performance merits it. Brooke's voice cracked. You're seizing the company? I already own it, I corrected. I'm simply ending the pretense. Uncle Marcus asked about alternatives. Option 2. I force sale to a third party. You receive fair market value for your shares, far below inflated family expectations without my ongoing infusions. The legacy ends. Ellison becomes another portfolio acquisition. Option 3. I continued. Immediate withdrawal of support. I call an all-convertible debt. Payable within 90 days. Bankruptcy follows. I recover partially as secured creditor. You recover nothing. Grandfather's company dies completely. Father's voice was hollow. You wouldn't destroy what your grandfather built. Grandfather's original vision ended years ago, I said quietly. What remains is the company I rebuilt with $175 million of thankless capital. You've already undermined that legacy by planning raids and buyouts while disparaging me. Ethan spoke up. Option 1 keeps us employed. On merit. I nodded. Brooke excels at positioning when not engaging creative accounting. Uncle Marcus understands operations. Father maintains client ties. If you perform competently under professional standards, roles continue. Nepotism. Self-dealing. Entitlement end today. Mother whispered. We're your family. You excluded me from that family repeatedly, I replied. Made clear I didn't belong at your table. So I built my own with better standards. Now I offer seats at mine. But only on terms of accountability. Sarah checked the time. Decisions required today. Documents need all family shareholder signatures. Offer expires at 5 p.m. We'll wait in conference room B. I'll be in the executive office, grandfather's former space. Currently occupied by father. I'm reclaiming it. My team followed me out. Through the glass, I saw the family frozen, faces etched with disbelief. Sarah touched my arm in the hallway. You okay? I will be, I said, once reality sets in for them. Family should be support, not erasure. When used as a weapon, expect cuts both ways. 2 hours later, at 4:47, father knocked on the office door. He looked aged. Shoulders slumped. We'll sign, he said quietly. All of us. Your terms. Brooke's upset.
Your mother is. Processing. But yes.
I nodded. Option 1 was the only viable path. They had survived this long by eventually facing consequences. The independent board joined within weeks. 2 former Fortune 500 manufacturing executives and a respected industry consultant for my network. The compensation adjustments took effect immediately. Brooke retained her strategic role but at 40% reduced pay with strict performance metrics and oversight. Ethan was removed due to inherent conflicts from his private equity work. His contract's clauses made it straightforward. Uncle Marcus actually flourished under structured governance, relieved from family politics. Father adapted slowly, but began respecting boundaries when he recognized my commitment to fairness, paired with accountability. Mother never reconciled. She sold her shares back at fair market valuation, netting roughly $4 million, far less than her anticipated family discount, and distanced herself afterward. The loss of that relationship ached. But I refused to regret enforcing respect. The Caldwell acquisition failed proper due diligence due to hidden environmental liabilities potentially costing $30 million to remediate. 6 months later, we identified a stronger target, smaller, cleaner financials, better strategic alignment. It integrated smoothly, boosting efficiency and market position. Under the new structure, genuine profitability emerged, not survival propped by my infusions, but sustainable operations through improved processes and accountability. 2 years post-restructuring, company valuation had tripled. My 57% stake now exceeded my original investment substantially. I expanded Ellison Ventures Partners, hiring additional talent and diversifying sectors. The turnaround story, focused on merit-based governance rather than family drama, became a teaching case for attracting new portfolio opportunities. Brooke and I developed a professional working relationship with clear personal boundaries. She never offered explicit apology, But the dismissive treatment ceased. She treated me as the CEO who safeguarded the inheritance for her children rather than the invisible sibling. Holiday gatherings remained awkward yet civil. Father and I built a relationship grounded in mutual professional respect instead of assumed hierarchy. The children called me Aunt Riley, aware of my role in preserving their future. Grandfather had bequeathed me those shares because he recognized potential the others overlooked. The accompanying note was simple: use these wisely. Build something real. I had done exactly that. Propelled by their underestimation. Every exclusion fueled my quiet advancement. Every dismissal sharpened my strategy. Every assumption of my failure drove decisions proving them wrong. I framed Grandfather's original stock certificate, hanging it in my office beside his 1980s factory photo. Beneath it, a small plaque reads, "Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about constructing something undeniable that forces acknowledgement of what was always true." The family dynamic evolved into a functional but redefined normal. Dinners occurred without open hostility, though underlying tensions lingered like faint scars. I never forgot the conference room conversations where they plotted to strip my legacy while casually spending my money. Never forgot being barred from meetings about my own company. Never forgot being labeled a failure by those whose positions existed solely due to my funding. Some wounds heal through time and demonstrated results. Others remain as permanent lessons about human nature when power imbalances exist. Forgiveness has limits. Boundaries become essential when loyalty demands self-erasure.
Today,
Ellison Manufacturing thrives with independent oversight, attracting talent and partners who value competence over bloodlines. The company attracts genuine outside interest rather than relying on anonymous rescue capital. My investment has multiplied, validating every silent sacrifice and strategic move made in shadows. Yet in quiet moments, questions persist. What does family truly mean when it requires diminishing one member to elevate others? How much should we endure in the name of legacy before reclaiming our worth? When does protecting an inheritance justify erasing the person who saved it? I built something real despite, not because of, the family narrative written without me. Sometimes the most profound revenge isn't destruction or domination. It's simply becoming who you were always meant to be, with or without their blessing, forcing the world, and them, to see the truth they long ignored.